Welcome. My name is Daigle. I have a Master of Social Work. I've been doing counseling for the past 35 years, and I have my own private practice. Denise asked me if I would be willing to do a presentation on grief tonight. I know this is a very touchy subject. This is a very hard subject to talk about, but this is an important subject. First of all, so this is what we're going to talk about. We will talk about grief and what is it. We're going to talk about different type of losses, because when we do go through grief, it's not just about losing somebody, but there's different losses. We're going to talk about the stages of grief. We're going to talk about the grief reaction. We're going to talk about healthy ways to deal with grief. And we're also going to talk about what is it that you can do to try to help someone that is grieving. Okay. So what is grief? Well, grief is a normal response to loss. Okay. When we lose someone, something, it is normal, I guess, to be upset. So it is the emotional suffering that we go through when we lose something or someone, okay? Or that something is taken away from us. We know that when we lose someone or changes in our life, it can feel very overwhelming. So there's all kinds of emotion that you can experience, like shock, anger, disbelief, guilt, sadness, okay, guilt. Yeah, so I mean, like, there's all kinds of different emotion. Sometimes also grief can goes along with that sense of losing control, because when we lose something, when we lose someone, so there's a sense that we might not have any control over our life, over what is going on. Okay, for some people also, grief could, I guess, feel like a sense of being abandoned, helplessness also. Okay. So here's some type of losses. Well, of course, I mean, like, there's loss of a loved one, loss of your social connection, loss of or harm to some relationship. It could be friend, family, coworker. It could be loss in terms of school, high school, college, university, financial loss, death of a pet. For a lot of people, losing a pet, it's like losing a part of the family, because pets become our family members. Material loss, either through fire, flooding, storm. So there's also some other losses, like loss of support system, income, loss of confidence, loss of faith, okay, loss of dream for the future. And I know for the past 2 years that there's a lot of people that have experienced some of these losses. I know it's been very difficult for some people, loss of social connection sometime, right? So these are some of the losses. So there's some more. Leaving home. Let's say that you have a child that is ready to leave home, emptiness syndrome. Well, I mean, that's a major loss for parents. Illness, loss of health. So that means that your life is changing too. When you lose, or when you get sick, or when you lose your health. Change or loss of job. That's a major loss, because for a lot of people, that's how they do identify themselves through their work. So if they lose their job, that's a major loss for them. Moving to a new home. So that could mean leaving friends behind, leaving family behind. So that's major also. So also, I mean, like, there's the fact that when you do graduate from high school, so there's losses, because you're losing your friends, and then there's all kinds of unknown. What's going to happen? Loss of your physical ability through illness, financial security also. So as you see, there's a lot of losses that we do experience, and grief. So the stages of grief, I mean, like, they do apply for all of these losses. So let's look at these stages of grief. Kubler-Ross, she wrote, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she wrote many books on grief. She does have a lot of little clips, YouTube presentation on grief, okay? So she's well known in terms of her work for grief. So she did say that there's 5 stages to grief. So the first one is denying, okay? So that means also the shock, confusion, okay? It can be happening. I don't understand, right? So people, they know, I mean, that this is real, but there's that piece, that there's part of them that it's hard for them to accept. Anger, anxiety, frustration, right? Being mad, asking, why is this happening to me? Trying to blame someone, something, right? Because when we suffer, it hurts. And sometimes, I mean, like, when we hurt, we get angry. So then the third stage that she described is feeling depressed, helpless, I'm sorry. So, I mean, like, feeling overwhelmed, right? So that's the third stage, being sad. So the fourth stage that she described is to try to make sense of what's going on, trying to find meaning. Why is it happening again? Telling their story, reaching out, bargaining, and then trying to slowly move from all of the other stage to, it's hard for me, but I have to move forward. And then the last stage that she described is to accept the fact that I don't have to like it, you know, and plus, yes, my life is going to change drastically. There's all kinds of new things. There's a new plan that I'm going to have to put in place. But I know that I have to move on for myself. I have to move on for my family, friends, right? So again, I mean, just go a little bit deeper about these stages that she described. Shock, denial, and sometimes, I mean, like, when people are in shock, it's almost like there's no emotion. It could be that the shock and or the denial can last for a couple days, can last for some people after the funeral, but that's, I guess, when they realize, right? So between the news and then the funeral, sometimes there's no emotion, there's no tears, because they're just like, they can't believe this is going on. They can't believe this is happening. Anger, you know, because we try to, and or that we want to find some answers. So sometime we might be mad at healthcare worker, family, doctors. Let's say that somebody, so I mean, like, died through a car accident. So sometime, I mean, like, we get mad at the other driver, right? Because it does hurt so much. So then, of course, depression. So that's when we have that feeling of despair, loneliness. It could be that we're so used to be with the person that not having the person with us, there's that empty. So that's hard. And then for some people too, they could feel hopeless. How am I going to move on from that? Right? Bargaining, well, so that's a gradual process. So that does not happen overnight. It takes time. So that there could be day that you think, okay, I'm feeling strong. I am accepting the loss. But then, like there's some memory of the loved one. There's things that does remind you of the loss. So then, like for some people, so they think that they're going backwards, but no, like that's the process, right? That means that your wound is starting to heal. And then the last step is to accept the fact that I don't have to agree with what just happened. I don't have to like it, but I have to give myself permission to move on with my life. And it doesn't matter of the kind of losses. Okay? So far, so good. No question, no hands raised or nothing, Denise? Okay, let's continue. Okay, so there's some common and then long-term reaction to grief. So first of all, there's the physical reaction. So there's some people that say, I just can't eat. I just have no appetite. I cry all the time. I can't sleep. Sometimes I fall asleep, but then I wake up. Or sometimes I just can't fall asleep. Feeling fatigue. I don't do much things, but then I just feel like I just need to go for a nap. I'm so exhausted. Restlessness. Just want to keep busy because they know that if they stop, then they're going to think about their loss. So, right? Feeling sick through their stomach, nauseated. So, like feeling like they don't want to eat because they just like, they're full, their stomach doesn't feel right. Feeling stress, anxiety. Some people say sometimes that they feel like they're having like some heart attack because of the pressure. They feel pressure, they have panic attack. So signs of anxiety, stress about not knowing in terms of what's going to happen in the future. Shortness of breath, trouble to digest, okay? Emotionally, anger. So again, like I said, angry because they're trying to make sense of what just happened. Apathy, it's just, I don't know how to feel. I'm numb. I want to feel something, but then I can't. Impatience sometimes, okay? Loneliness, missing the person that is not there. Oversensitive, taking things personal, right? Vulnerable, guilty. So sometimes people, like they question themselves. Maybe I didn't do enough. Maybe if I would have done it differently, right? So the guilt, blaming themselves. Deep down knowing that there's probably nothing that they could have done that would have changed the situation. Withdraw from family, friends, neighbors, co-workers. Because sometimes, like for people, it's just to deal with their own pain because we deal with our pain differently. But sometimes people, like they just don't want to talk to other people. They just want to, first of all, like try to make sense of it by themselves. Okay. Cognitive. Sometimes I hear people say, I have vision of the person that died in or of some event, things that we did together, right? And some people sometimes say, I hear their voice. I feel their presence. It's almost like they're sitting on the couch with me watching TV, right? confused. So I mean, like trying to make sense of what's going on, being confused about the loss, and then being confused about their emotion because there's so many emotion going on. Then they ask themselves, am I normal to feel all of them at once sometime? Or 1 minute I'm sad, and then the next minute I'm happy, and then I'm stressed, right? Can't concentrate, just their mind is again busy trying to make sense of what's going on. So some people say that they feel like their brain is in the fog, right? So they can't think, they can't focus. They go from one place to another, and then they're like, okay, what was I looking for? Why did I came to the living room? So they forget, disbelief, still having a hard time to figure out that this is really happening to them, that the loss is really happening. Forgetful. For some people, so they have a hard time like to make decision because they're so afraid that they're going to make the wrong decision, right? So yeah. So these are some of the common short-term, and some of these reactions also can be long-term. Okay, because let's say, for example, feeling the person or hearing the person's voice. So that can happen 3-4 months after, right? Because you could hear a song and then right away, so that you think about the person. Okay. So let's talk about myths about grief. Okay, because there's some people that believe that, I guess, grief should happen a certain way. So let's look at the first one. Some people think that moving on from your loss means that you are forgetting about it. Okay? It's not true. You need to heal. You need to move forward. You're not forgetting about the person. You're not forgetting about the event. Okay? But you have to move on. Okay? Myth number two, if you don't cry, it means that you're not sad or that you're not sorry about what just happened. No. I mean, like, we deal with grief differently. Some people don't cry, right? Some people kind of release their emotion differently. Some people go to the gym, some people walk, some people paint, some people, scream or whatever it is. But it doesn't mean because somebody does not cry that they don't care, that they're not sorry. Number three, ignoring the pain will make, I guess, grief go way faster. No, that's the opposite. Because if you do ignore the pain, so then, I mean, like, what you're doing is that you're just kind of shoving it down and down and down. And yes, so you will probably be able to ignore the pain for a couple of weeks, couple of months sometime. But once, it could be something that's going to happen. It could be a song, it could be memories of the person, and then all of these emotions are going to come up. Okay, so then it might take you longer to deal with your loss. Myth number 4, that grief is a time-limited process. It should last about a year. Way back, I remember people saying, if you're not over the grief after 3 to 6 months, well, then, I mean, like, you're having a hard time. So again, I mean, like, we're all different. We know that the first year is probably going to be harder because it's going to be the first Christmas without the person. It's going to be the first birthday without the person, right? But there's no time limit for grieving. It's your way, because we're all different. Okay. Number 5, crying when you face a loss. So that's a sign of weakness. Absolutely not. Okay. Crying is so, I mean, like that's the way for you to kind of release your emotion. And it's totally okay to cry. That's not a sign of weakness at all. But again, so I mean, like there's a perception out there that only weak people cry. It's not true. Okay. Okay, so let's look at some healthy ways to deal with grief. Okay. Well, I mean, the first thing is that you have to be gentle with yourself. Grief takes time. Losing someone, losing something that was very special to us, it's a wound, and any wound heals differently. So that means that you have to be gentle. So that means that if you're tired, take a nap. If there's something that you don't want to do, I mean, just say it. Not tonight because I'm too tired. Okay. Do try to keep your daily activity, I guess, as normal as you can. Because when people lose something, someone, so there's a major sense of losing control over their life. So that's why that if you try to kind of continue your routine, at least doing some of the things that you enjoy, so there's that sense of at least control that you haven't lost. Okay. To do, I mean, like structure your day. So that means, I mean, like not to say that you have a list that long to do, but to set a few goals, 1 or 2 goals for the day. Okay. Realistic goal. So I guess that way, so you feel that you're doing something positive, and then you have a sense of control over your life, right? Because there's so many things that you might feel that you cannot control. So having something, and then I mean like feeling good about doing them. And if it's only 2 things and then you say, I'm exhausted, that's enough, that's okay. Okay. Something that you have to remember, because I mean like making decision might be difficult, so you don't have to make drastic decision. You don't have to make decision. If you say, I'm gonna wait, for 6 months, for a year before I do make any decision, that's okay. It's how you feel, what you need to do. Try not to numb the pain, because I mean that's okay to take care of ourselves, but there's people sometimes that they numb the pain by doing drugs or by drinking, or right. So try to use some healthy ways to deal with your grief. Faith, spirituality. Pray if you want to. Do yoga. Do meditation. Go in nature. Do something that is going to help you to stay grounded into the moment, grounded into the present, and also that will make you feel good. Okay. Buy books. I mean, like, there's all kinds of books that you could read about self-help. There's books about anything, maybe hobby that you always wanted to do. Okay. Read. Do something that is going to help you. Laugh. People think because, I mean, like they lost someone or they had a major loss in their life that they're not supposed to laugh. They're supposed to be sad all the time. Laughter is a good medicine, okay? That releases a lot of stress. So give yourself the chance to laugh, okay? Rest. You know your body. If you feel exhausted physically, mentally, don't see that as a sign of being lazy if you take a little nap. That's okay, because I mean, like the first couple weeks after loss of, I guess, someone or any other losses, there's so many things that people need to do physically, and then there's so many emotion. And I mean, like for some people, so it's almost like they're on high because there's so many things. They want to stay focused. They want to make sure that they're doing all that they're supposed to be doing, that when they stop, so I mean, that's when their body kind of release all of that extra stress. So yes, do rest, okay? Do something that you enjoy to take care of yourself. It could be, so I mean, like by relaxing, it could be reading, listening to music, yoga, meditation, praying, anything that is going to help you, okay, to reconnect with yourself. Do make time, excuse me, make time to do some fun things. Let's say that before that you had the loss, that you were doing fun things. Don't stop them, okay? Do the things that you enjoyed. If you feel that you need to join a support group, because for some people that's very helpful and that's very healthy, because sometimes, I mean, like when we go through a loss, we feel that we're the only one that is going through that loss. We feel like our emotions, our feelings are kind of not normal. But sometimes, I mean, like when we talk to other people and then we realize, oh, they're going through the same thing as I am going. Wow, okay, so that means that this is healing, this is grief that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So that could be very helpful. Journaling. Some people, sometimes they have a hard time to share their emotion. So that's why they journal. So, I mean, like they could write their emotion about the person, the loss, okay? You know, saying, I miss you today. I'm sad without you today, or I'm feeling better today, okay? Journaling. So that's also kind of your guide to kind of go back and check, okay, I've been journaling for 2 weeks. I mean, like, what's my progress? Well, that's good because I'm not crying as much, or I'm not as much angry, or I'm more rested. And or also sometime that could be that, let's say that you're having a hard time. So then you go back in your journal and say, oh yeah, that's right. That's what I did 2 weeks ago. I mean, like when I was struggling. Okay. So I mean, like this is kind of your guide. Journaling is very healthy. Don't be afraid to seek help, to ask for help. It could be family, friends, coworkers, neighbors, healthcare professional. Don't hesitate to reach out for help, okay? Don't grieve your loss by yourself. Okay, things to do to help someone that is grieving. It's not easy. I mean, like for family members, for coworkers, for neighbors, for others, I guess to kind of support, because some people don't feel comfortable with grief. They don't feel comfortable, I mean, like talking about to, I mean, like somebody about their loss, right? So that's why sometimes like they will just avoid talking to the person because they don't know what to tell them. Okay, so let's look at ways that you could help someone. So tell them, or I mean, ask the person, do you feel like talking? You know, because the person that is going through some grief, they might not always want to talk. There's days where they just want to be with their emotion, or they just want to be with themselves. So ask them first. And if they say, thanks for asking, but not today, don't be upset. I mean, like, don't take it personal. It's just that they might not be ready to talk that day. Okay. Sometime also it just to be honest and say, you know, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say, but I care. Okay. What do you need from me? And or I mean, like, what can I do to help you? Um, do is, hey, I mean, like, if you have emotion and if you want to cry, don't be afraid. Don't worry to cry in front of me. I'm okay with that because I'm here to support you. It also helped, I mean, like, just to kind of recall the good times with the persons, you know, just to say, hey, I mean, like, do you remember when, you know, you and I and the person that we did this? So, I mean, like, just talk about the good memories also. Do help the person to plan, I guess, for the difficult time. It could be, I mean, the birthday, the holiday. Ask the person, I know that your loved one's birthday is coming up. Is there something, you know, that I can do for you? Okay. Is there something that I could do to support you? We know that, I mean, when we lose someone or when there's major loss, it could be somebody leaving the house or it could be flooding or anything. Sometimes, I mean, like, there's cleanup to do. Okay. And sometimes the person it's I guess too much for them to do alone. So ask them, can I help you to clean? Okay. Do you want me to do something? Do you want, right? Ask them. Or guide them also sometimes, because they might say, I have so many things to do that I just don't know where to start. Well, okay, I mean, look, let's take it one step at a time. Let's clean that room for today. So then we'll see how we feel afterwards, okay? Step by step. Sometime when somebody left or lost, or it could be death or any loss of relationship also, sometime writing to the person, not giving it to them, but I mean, just to write to, I mean, to tell them how we felt, that we miss them, I guess, talk about the good memories and everything for us, doing it for us. This is our healing part. So then, I mean, like, we could destroy the letter if we want to. I've worked with some people that they lost someone through death, but then, I mean, like, they had things that they were not able to tell the person before they die. So they wrote them a letter. So then they went by their grave and they read them the letter. So for them, that was their healing and that was their closure. Okay. Sometime when people grow, I guess, go through grief and loss, they lose track of time. So they don't eat. They lose track of time. They might not sleep. Okay. Some people don't even shower because they just lose track of time. And I guess there's so many emotions. So do remind the person, or just ask them sometime, I mean, just, did you eat today? Oh no, I forgot. Okay, well, so I mean, let's cook something. Okay. Go out with them. So I mean, like, bring them for coffee or something. Okay. Help them cook, because cooking might be hard for them to do. That's a big task. Shopping, writing thank you letters to people that were kind enough to them through the loss, right? So all of these things for us might seem like this is not a big deal, but for the person that is going through a lot of emotion, that's a lot, because there's so many things to do. Okay. Be patient with your friends. Be patient with your loved one. Grief takes time. Grief's wounds does not heal in a week. Okay, so yeah, it takes time. So don't say to the person, well, I mean, it's been 6 months, so I mean, like, you should be over your loss right now, and I mean, like, go on with your life, right? That's not what the person wants to hear. Okay. And I mean, like, for you, maybe 6 months, I mean, like 3 months, that's how long it takes to grieve. But maybe not for the person that is going through that. Okay, so be patient. We know that grief can be complicated. Okay, so we know that the first couple weeks, you know, the first 4, 5, 6 weeks, I mean, like, they're very difficult. Okay, there's things that symptoms or sign, if you want to call it, symptoms of, if you see somebody doing some of them, then it could be that their grief is kind of not healing. Okay, but it's getting, I guess, more difficult, or that the healing is not, like, it's going well, if you want to say it. So if the person does have some thoughts, images of the person that they lost, right? So I mean, like, if they see them, if they still, and if it's been 6 weeks, 8 weeks, but they still see them, they still hear them, right? They still feel their presence. They're still cooking for 2 people, or they're setting the table for 2 people, or they're serving their plate the same as if they were there. Okay, thinking that your loved one is still alive. I heard people telling me after 3 weeks, 4 weeks, that their loved one was gone on vacation, or they're gone for work, but they will be back. So it was so hard for them to think about the fact that the loved one was not there, that they're still, I guess, can't make sense of it. Denying the death. Okay, disbelief still after 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Okay, searching for the person in some familiar places. Let's say that your loved one was going to Tim Horton for coffee every morning. So then, I mean, like, you go to Tim Hortons because you're looking for them, right? Very angry, bitter about the loss. Can't get over, stuck in the anger stage. I worked with someone before that they had lost their son through in a car accident, and it was a sad situation. But then, I mean, like, the person could not get over the anger. They were blaming the other driver. I mean, they were stuck. They were angry at the world. They're stuck in anger. Okay. Feeling that life is empty, that there's no meaning to life. So these are signs that, okay, maybe the person is really struggling with their loss, grieving, right? So these are red flags. So I mean, like, there's a difference between grieving and then depression. So again, I mean, like, we have to watch for these signs, because when grief is not taken care of, or if people don't take care of themselves, or if they're stuck in anger or any other, I guess, like, stages, well, that could turn into depression. Okay, so if they have a sense of guilt, like, it's very intense, they're feeling guilty, they're angry, right? So that could be that this is more than grief, that maybe that they're starting to be depressed. If they're talking about suicide, or if they do say things like, I wish that I could not be here. I wish that I could go to bed and then just not wake up, right? Feeling hopeless, worthless. My life doesn't mean anything right now because my loved one is there, because I lost this or that. Sometimes, I mean, like, you have people that they speak and move very slow, almost like a robot. It's just like there's no effect. There's no more energy left. So they're just like flat, right? So, I mean, like that could be, so there's no energy, so they're totally gone, okay? They can't function at work, at home, and or at school. They can't concentrate, they're flunking, they're missing a lot of work. At home, they're not doing laundry, they're not cooking, they're not doing dishes, they're not doing anything. And plus, if they see and or hear things that are, I guess, not there, well, I mean, like that could be sign again that their grief is really going deeper. So then it could be a depression. So that's why it would be important to get them to get some help. Okay. To accept the loss, it's not easy, but I mean, that means that we have to understand that we cannot change the situation, okay? That we have and that we will do the best we can to adapt to this new reality, okay? So there's a couple things that we can do to be honest with ourselves about your feelings. If you're feeling overwhelmed today, say it. I'm just feeling overwhelmed today. If you're angry, I mean, like talk to someone that you trust, but don't hide your feeling. Don't pretend that you, so I mean, that's normal. And some people say that they at times feel like they're on a, almost like a roller coaster of emotion. They're like, I'm fine, I'm okay, I'm angry, right? Okay. So do acknowledge that you have this emotion. Try to stay focused into the present. I know sometimes when we grieve that we tend to think about the past, things that we didn't do, things that we could have done, right? All these good memories, but we cannot change the past. And or sometimes, I mean, like we tend to move towards the future, or I mean, like think about the future. When am I going to feel better? Okay. Is things going to change soon? Well, it's hard to control the future. So that's why, I mean, like the only thing that we can control is what can I have or do today to stay focused. So it's not easy, but it's very helpful to stay focused into the present. To accept also the fact that there's going to be some positive and also there's going to be some negative part of your new reality. So that there's going to be some days when, I mean, like you're going to be okay to be by yourself, or that you're not going to have someone with you, but there's going to be days when you're going to say, I wish that my loved one would be here today. So do accept the fact that there will be good days and there's going to be some, like, it's bad days. Do also think about the good memories. Sometimes people, so I mean, that's what makes them smile. So to think about the fact, okay, well, he or she's not here with me right now, but we had such a great time. I mean, like we did this together. So think about the fun, the positive things. Do be open to new experience, because we know that when there's loss, so that means that there will be some changes. So that means that we have to be flexible, that we have to be open to these new experience. And that, yes, I mean, like that could also mean some new relationship, right? Okay, so when to seek help. If you notice changes, I guess, to sleeping and or eating patterns, so the person is not sleeping enough, sleeping too much, sleeps all day, lost, 15, 20 pounds, I mean, like since the loss, These are, I guess, major red flags, right? If the person does have a lack of interest in social activities that they normally love, that they like to do, that's another one, okay? If the relationship with family, friends, coworkers, neighbors is getting worse, and or if the person is kind of withdrawing more from family, friends, well, yeah, so that's a red flag also. If you notice that the person is kind of drinking more and or started to drink, doing drugs, self-harm behavior, risk-taking behavior. So, I mean, like that means that, so I guess probably, so they don't care about what could happen to them, right? So they're feeling helpless, worthless. If you notice that the person is kind of acting strong on the outside, I'm fine, I'm going to be okay. But you know that they're suffering inside because of their behavior changes. And also, if they're talking about suicide, they have thoughts of suicide, and or that they act on suicide behavior. If you notice that the person is not feeling better after several months of grieving, and I'm talking about 3-4 months at least, and so yeah, so that's a sign. If they cannot do their daily activities, so I guess regardless if it's only walking the dog, feeding the pets, okay? If they have lack of interest at school, at work, at home, or if they just don't care, feeling depressed, and also if they cannot concentrate. So these are all signs that, okay, maybe that we need to do something. I mean, like we need to talk to the person. But, so that if we don't take care of the person now, so that's when things, I guess, can get worse. So do remember that you do your grief your own way. Okay, don't compare yourself to somebody else's, I guess, grieving. Say, well, he lost his partner, and after 3 months, he was okay or she was okay, and it's been 6 months for me and I'm not okay. Well, it depends of the kind of relationship that you had with someone, right? And it depends if it's somebody that you've been with forever, if it's family members that you were very close to. So your grief belongs to you. So don't compare yourself to other people. Do also remember that death and our losses, they leave scars, right? You're always going to remember that person. Your love for that person is always going to be there. Okay? Do also remember that there's no right way and or wrong way to grieve losses. We all do it on our own time and our own way too. Okay? And sometimes that means to tell people, you know, I know that you want me to, I guess, move faster, but I can't. Okay? It's my grief and I'm going to grieve it my way, so to speak. Do also remember that, so what you feel during bereavement it's normal. I've worked with people that they have lost someone, and after 10 years, 20 years, I mean, like they were still not, I guess, being able to move forward. Okay. So then that means that probably that the person is, I guess, kind of stuck in their grief. So that could mean that they might need to reach for some professional help, because that could be depression, right? prolonged grief, sometimes, yeah. So I mean, like, we need to get somebody else's involved, professional, doctors, counselors, right? Because there's something that is stopping the person from being able to move forward. Okay. If you can't feel, if you feel that you cannot cope with your loss alone, well, you don't have to be alone. Reach out. Do talk to people that you trust. And it could be family, it could be friends, it could be co-workers, okay? Doesn't matter. Don't grieve alone. Oops. So grief, well, there's no rule book, there's no time frame, there's no judgment. Grief is each and every one, so that we deal with grief, same as your fingerprint. So I mean, there's only one fingerprint like yours. Well, there's only one way of dealing with grief for you, okay? Do what is right for your soul. Do what is right for you. There comes a point in life that when you realize that nothing, I guess, will ever be the same, and you realize that from now on, time will be divided in two parts, before this happened and after this happened, right? Because then your life is not going to be the same as before. So then your life is not going to be the same as after. We have a question. Yes, but sometimes they don't believe doctors and they don't believe they have that problem. What can we do? Some people, sometimes there's really stuck in that grief, in grief, in order that they deny, right, that they're grieving, okay, because they just don't want to let go of the person. It's hard for them to let go, so they're in denial, right? They won't let go. And I know some people, like, they don't want to talk about it because they don't believe this is happening. Why should I talk to someone about my grief, right? Because in my mind, I mean, like, the person is not gone. So I guess the person is still here in my mind, in my heart, right? And it's the same thing as when you have someone that you're trying to get them some help for drugs addiction, alcohol. If they deny that they have a problem, it's going to be hard for you to convince them to get some help until they do accept the fact that, yeah, I mean, like, they need help. So that means that you're just going to guide them, support them as much as you can. It's not going to be easy, but sometimes, I mean, like, there's things that we have control over, but sometimes there's things that we don't have control over. It's hard to kind of watch somebody's pain, somebody's suffering, right? But sometimes, I mean, like, I guess we could just do what we can, okay? When you lose something, don't think of it as a loss. So do accept it as the gift that gets you on the path you were meant to travel on. I know some people say, yeah, right, whatever. But no, I mean, like, sometimes grieving losses, I mean, like, they're not easy, okay? Don't get me wrong. But sometimes we grow from these losses, right? So, I mean, like, we have to see that as, I mean, like, this is the new path. So, right? So I'm learning something new about myself. I'm learning something new about life. Okay. And then the last slide is, don't be afraid of change. I know changes are not easy. Coming out of our comfort zone. Okay. You may lose something good, but you'll gain something probably better. Losing something, someone, any changes in our life, it is not easy, okay? But it's one day at a time. I really want to thank you for taking the time to participate and to be here. I hope that it was helpful for you and that you were able to gain something from it.
Ross, thank you very much for sharing again your wealth of knowledge and information. This was really, really good. This was really good.
You're very welcome. I'm glad it was helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay, everybody. Thanks for attending another Wellness Wednesday. Take care.
Take care.
Bye for now.
Bye.